At the end of this video, I will include a shortened interpretation of the oldest known song that has reached us today. This sound, left behind thousands of years ago, may belong not so much to the past, but to the beginning of an entire tradition. Before humans used words, they made sounds, and those sounds were not random. The music we listen to today did not emerge with artistic intent. It was never meant as entertainment. There was not even a concern for sounding beautiful. The first sounds were made to survive. A scream when danger was sensed, shouting to avoid getting lost in the dark, calling out to show that a group was still alive. The human voice was the first signaling system. But over time, something happened. The same sounds at the same moments began to repeat. And repetition is an extremely powerful thing. Imagine a hunter-gatherer group. In the middle of the night, there is a fire. People stand around it in a circle, and beyond the circle it is very dark. One of them strikes the ground rhythmically, another raises their breath at regular intervals. The sounds begin to synchronize. No one says, "Let's make a song." But everyone performs the behavior. This is the feeling of togetherness. For the brain, this is crucial, because humans could not survive alone. And the brain developed mechanisms that reward staying within the group. The sense of rhythm became one of those mechanisms. Scientifically, we know this. Rhythmic sounds send signals to the brain's motor regions. So you're not just hearing it, your body is joining in. That's why you move involuntarily to music. Your foot taps the tempo. Your breathing changes. Your head nods. This is not a new behavior. It goes back a very long time. Music synchronizes the body, and synchronized bodies form stronger groups. That is why music existed even before wars. Armies began using drums later, moving together, running at the same time, jumping at the same time. These were not discipline. They were biology. Over time, sounds began to change. Screams grew longer. Short shouts turned into more controlled breathing. And in this way, humans discovered their voice. The vibration of the vocal cords, different volumes, created different emotions. Lower voices made people feel safe. Higher voices drew attention, and humans began to do this consciously. The first melodies emerged, but this still could not be called music. This was the sound of emotion, fear, grief, happiness, excitement. Before humans learned to express emotions with words, they expressed them through sound. Then something else happened. Humans died. And those left behind had to make sense of that loss. Death became the greatest problem of the human mind, because death did not fit anywhere. That is why the oldest musical remnants are mostly related to death. Laments, sounds of mourning, repetitive melodies. Music created a sense of control in the face of death. Instead of waiting in silence, you could externalize what you felt. Time passed, humans became settled, agriculture began, and music became part of rituals. Now sounds were made not only for the group, but for the gods. The gods did not communicate, but perhaps they listened. And to be listened to, sound was needed. In Mesopotamia, in ancient Greece, in Egypt, music was a sacred tool. It was not random. It had specific pauses, specific repetitions, because order felt closer to the gods. Chaos did not. When humans first tried to write music, the goal was not to preserve art. The goal was to reproduce the same sound again, because sound disappeared, and for the first time humans tried to prevent something from vanishing. This was the writing of music. But what was written was not exactly music. They were instructions. This sound comes next. Rhythm was still in the body. Interpretation was still human. Paper was only a guide. Over time, music became more complex. It became polyphonic. Rules emerged. But what is interesting is this. No matter how much the rules multiplied, the purpose of music remained the same. It still created a sense of togetherness, made emotion felt distorted the perception of time. When you listen to a song today, you don't notice how 3 minutes pass. This is not a coincidence. Music affects the brain's time center. That is why music helps when we are in pain, and that is why it is stronger when we are alone. When you put on headphones and disconnect from the outside world, music takes you somewhere else. But that place is not exactly imagination. It is inside your brain. Between modern music and ancient music, there is a technical gap, but functionally, there is none. We are still doing the same thing. We surrender ourselves to ordered frequencies because we live in a chaotic world. Perhaps music did not emerge to understand the world, but to make the world bearable. Because in deep silence, humans begin to hear their own thoughts. And that is not always bearable. That is why music exists, to fill the void, but not to seal it completely. Today there are millions of songs, but all of them come from the same primitive mechanism, a rhythm, a repetition, a feeling, and a body. Perhaps the real question is not, how did music emerge? Perhaps the question is this: why can humans not endure silence? Because in silence, not only the outside world becomes quiet, we begin to speak inside as well. And perhaps music was born to slightly quiet that voice. The oldest known written piece of music is the Hurrian hymn. However, the oldest song that we can listen to today is the Sekkilos epitaph. In a moment you will hear the Sekkilos epitaph. You can share your thoughts about the song in the comments.